I'm Jamie Cook, CEO of the Angling Trust. Now when I'm out on the bank like today, one of the questions that I get asked by anglers more than any other is where is the money that they spend on rod licences being invested? So come with me to the National Fish Farm run by the Environment Agency at Calverton. We're going to meet Alan Henshaw and his team and see how that money's being put to work.
Calverton is home to one of the largest fish farms in the UK. It's a one-of-a-kind facility, the only coarse fish farm operated by the Environment Agency, with a unique combination of species. The team here work tirelessly to breed fish in a way that gives high survivability once released into our rivers, lakes and canals around the country. The journey of all the fish produced by Calverton starts here. Once wild fish have been caught by various methods, the team are ready to get to work.
So Dan, we're going to the broodstock section now. Tell us what we're going to see.
So this is where we bring the wild fish when we're spawning them.
Okay.
So this is the only place that will keep broodstock, and this is where the magic happens.
Using this method, the team can guarantee that each year the fish stocks will be unique.
Are there any particular things you're looking for? Characteristics, shape, size? What are you breeding from?
So we like to get a broad range of characteristics. So you're not just looking for the big ones or the dumpy ones. You're looking for a mixture of all of it, really. So you want a nice spread of genetics going out into the wild.
Well, I'm looking forward to this bit, so should we go and have a look?
So we get all of our fish from the wild, and we pride ourselves from being one step away from wild. If we do harvest a wild fish that's got one of our blue markings on it, we won't bring it back to the farm because we've already played with it. We'll bring the fish one step away from the wild, bring them in, take some of their eggs off them, and then within a couple of days they'll be back into the river again like nothing happened.
So literally that fish you're talking 48 hours from them coming out of their natural environment to being put back in, and you've just secured the future for that fish's lineage and future generations.
Yeah. And then so the fishery doesn't miss out on the eggs that we've taken out, a percentage of the larvae that we get from any individual female will go back to that stretch of water or that river or lake.
Once the fish are brought in, they are assigned a tank depending on their species and sex.
Each of the systems have got multiple tanks, so you have the males in one side and the females in the other side. So they can still smell each other, taste each other if you were, but they can't actually get down to the spawning in the tanks because we want to do that ourselves.
And I imagine water temperature is quite important through here. How's that regulated?
So this thing that looks like something out of a Doctor Who program is it's the control box, the nerve centre as it were. That means that we can change the photo period, the temperature of all of the tanks, because some fish require different needs to get them in the mood for spawning.
So like roach with light levels and things
Yeah, exactly.
like that.
So we can put them into the big tanks, we can change the photo period, give them 24 hours of sunlight if you like, but then things like your barbel, your crucian carp and your tench, they like their temperature changing. So the river might be 20 degrees. If we don't think the fish are quite ready to go, we can put them into a tank and we can ramp them up to 24 degrees. And then after their first injection, we could even ramp them up as high as they'd like, basically.
Typically, clubs up and down the country are happy to have the Environment Agency take a selection of fish from their stretches. The technology at the farm results in a much higher survival rate of the offspring.
In the wild, you'd expect about a 2% on average survival. In here, we get about 80% fertility. So they will be getting a much higher quantity of advanced reared larvae back into that stretch. So that directly benefits them.
I imagine with different species coming in, like cleanliness and areas like that are really important. How do you manage that?
So we're very high on our biosecurity here. When we're bringing fish in from the wild, they could be carrying anything, any viruses, infections, parasites even. So when we handle the fish, we put them back safely in the tanks and then we disinfect everything from our waterproofs. We wear lab coats, we wash our hands, we spray and disinfect all of the floor, and all of the water that leaves this room goes through an ozone unit, so it's completely sterile before it goes into the stream.
I think it's really interesting. For me as an angler, I've fished my whole life. I've seen you stock thousands of waters through social media or video. I've never actually thought about what happens to the water from when you've bred them or when you've transported the fish, so thank you for that.
Now the broodstock have had their eggs stripped, they are taken back to the wild. But the journey is just beginning for the next generation.
So Rab, we're the other side from the broodstock side now. We're in the hatchery, through the hatch.
That's it, yeah.
Tell us what happens here. What's the process?
So we're in the early rearing unit now, and what happens is the eggs and sperm will get passed through in this bowl, and because we use a dry stripping method next door, nothing will actually be active in this bowl at present. until we put the fertilisation solution on. And this is a mixture of salt, urea and distilled water. And as soon as a drip of that goes on the eggs and the milt, everything's active. And for fish, the milt is only active for about 30 seconds. Because if you think about it in the wild, if they're spawning in a river, the water's flowing past them, there's no need for the milt to be active any longer than that. It's gone, it's downstream. So it's quite
Really quick process.
Yeah, it's sort of really time specific. So we mix it with a feather. Why do you mix it with a feather? Nothing's been man-made that beats that. Because when you strip eggs, you often get might get a bit of a blood clot or a bit of poo come through. It's just the perfect tool to just flick it out.
There we go.
So once they're fertile, we wash them a few times, and we do 9 species here, and there are 2 types of egg. We've got a sticky egg and a non-sticky egg. So the sticky eggs get laid out on this media, and that just gives them lots of space for the water to flow around them.
So what species have sticky eggs?
Well, it's easy to tell you the species that don't have sticky eggs, and that would be grayling and barbel.
Yeah.
The other 7 species
Would all be
sticky. So let me get this right: dace, roach, bream, chub,
rudd,
tench, rudd, and crucial carp.
I'm just going through all the things I've seen.
Yeah. The non-sticky eggs go on a tray like this, and for example, and you can see this, each of those tiny slots would have about 4 eggs on for barbel or a grayling.
Yeah.
And we've done the math. And a tray like that, full with a single layer of eggs, will hold about 10,000. And there's 5 of those potentially in each trough.
Yeah.
And there might be 10 troughs of one species. So it's a lot of eggs come through here.
It's a lot of fish for the future, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Should we go and look at some then? I
Definitely,
can't wait.
Absolutely. So I'm going to show you some barbel larvae now.
Oh, superb.
Just for a guide look, we laid these eggs down on the 23rd of the 4th, 23rd of April this year.
2 months old.
So yeah, they're now 2 months old. So we've advanced reared these. We've already stocked our ponds out on the farm. We've put about 40,000 barbel larvae out to grow on for 2 years. But we've just advanced reared these, and they're going to be going into the Great Ooze catchment tomorrow, in fact.
Oh, superb. So this time tomorrow, these will be swimming in the rivers of the catchment.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'll grab this looker pot and we can have a look at some close up.
Definitely, yeah.
They're now amazing, starting to look like mum and dad. And if you looked at them under the microscope, they would have little tiny barbules, I think, but all the fins are there. They're coloured up. You can see that early mottling that they get for camouflage on the gravel.
We've seen the process of actually bringing them into the world.
Yep.
And now we've got them to the point where they're ready to go back into the river. I mean, what do you feed them? How do you get them from A to B?
They will be on their yolk sac for about 7 to 10 days.
Yeah.
But once they've used that yolk sac up, they'll come and fill a swim bladder full of air, and that's when they're going to be starting looking for food. And in the wild, it'll be zooplankton, it'll be rotifer, things like that. What we do here is we produce Artemia, or sea monkeys.
Yeah.
They like to have something living that they can grab hold of as their first preferred food.
With the amount of tiny fish being produced, you might imagine that the method of counting them was quite technical.
I keep seeing written on here, there's 5,000 here, 10,000 here. I mean, they're absolutely microscopic. How do you know? How do you count them?
It's all done by eye. And basically what we do is we grab a jug of larvae like that.
Yeah.
And then we count them with a counter. We have 1,000 counted in there, and then we'll add an amount in there so it looks like the 1,000 in there, and then they go into the bucket and out to the pond.
Do you have people who are better counters than worse counters?
It falls down to one person, i.e. me, because
A consistent counter.
consistently inconsistent.
Well, that was 20, and I'm pretty sure it was actually 20 or 21.
I'll take your word for it.
There we go.
Fish health is the #1 priority at Calverton, and that means a natural and balanced diet must be on offer. To regulate and maintain consistency in available food, water is tested daily in the laboratory.
These are adult copepods. You can see how they move in a jerky motion. Anything that swims in a jerky fashion is generally predatory. Anything that swims smooth in little circles is non-predatory.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that we generally look for, and that's one of the basic rules in looking at water samples. So that's the adult Daphnia, and that's what we're looking for in the on-grown ponds. So in our second year ponds, we're looking for the bigger, crunchier food, because the fish are that little bit bigger, they can cope with that sort of stuff. But when you're looking at fry ponds, adult copepods, they can consume larvae.
Yeah.
So it's really important that you get your stages bang on when you're going to stock your larvae in. You can go over the top by a day or 2 days, and it's that critical of making sure that the larvae is stocked at exactly the right time, because if you miss it by a day or two, then you get a large influx of the adult copepods coming through, and you've lost all your good natural food. So it's really important that we get the timing completely right. But if you look on the screen here, you can see that there's lots of tiny, small, nice rotifer that are swimming around, and that's what we want to see.
So this is really good.
This is really good food. So these are going to be stocked in the next day, either today, tomorrow, with tench larvae.
Brilliant.
Everywhere they look, there's something for them to eat. So they don't have to look for the food, it's just there.
Yeah.
So they're swimming in a big food soup, and the growth that they can achieve on this natural live diet is just incredible.
So Rich, once you put the larvae in, how often are you monitoring the quality of the ponds, and how would that apply to, I guess, bigger ponds or larger waters with established fish stocks?
We monitor the water quality daily. We're looking for dissolved oxygen, pH, all the parameters that we generally look at in water quality. Obviously, all of these organisms that are in the water, they use oxygen. So on great, lovely, sunny days, it's brilliant, because any plant life that's in there, they're all photosynthesizing, and they're giving us loads and loads of oxygen in the water. But during dull, thundery days, when you get them, stormy days through the summer, everything starts to become a net consumer. It's all about being, as we say, proactive. Look at the weather forecast for the next 10 days, see what's coming, make sure you can put extra oxygenation in your ponds and get ready for these events before they happen. Very easily you can all of a sudden get a steep decline in your dissolved oxygen, and that can be curtains for your larvae. So we're really proactive on our water quality monitoring.
So Cookie, Rich has just taken us through the water quality and how important that is for stocking. Tell us what we're going to see next.
Now that the ponds are ready and they've got plenty of natural food in them, we're going to actually stock some fish into the ponds.
Brilliant.
So we need to count them first so we know how many's going in.
So talk us through the process. How are we counting these fish?
Well, the fish have already had their first summer out in the ponds last year. They were harvested in January time this year and have been held in tanks since then. The ponds are now ready for them to go out, so they're going to go down the counter. So we net the fish from the tank, take them to the counter. So the fish go loaded into the counter. As they pass down the counter, they break a beam of light, and the high-speed camera registers that as a number. Once the fish are down, we can take the net of fish. We know how many are there, and these can be loaded into the transport tanks.
Across the site are the larger ponds. These hold stock that have been on the farm for 2 years. The fish here are in the final stages before being released into our waters.
We've got 5 or 6 different species in each pond. That's called polyculture. The idea is that they've all got their own niche, so they've got their own growing room really. You'll have your bottom feeders, top feeders, and then mid-water feeders. Since 2017, since we've been doing polyculture, we've had a lot better growth rates.
All the hard work is rewarded when the team see the number of fish that are ready to be introduced to rivers and lakes around the country. The majority of the fish stocked are used to replace fish that are lost due to pollution, or where local clubs and fisheries need a helping hand to establish new or improved facilities.
You've got 50 to 60,000 fish per pond.
Gosh, an angler's dream, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
The team at Calverton work around the clock to ensure our waters fight another day. But none of this would be possible without Alan Henshaw, who has dedicated his life to innovating and improving the way the farm runs.
Alan, thank you so much for showing me around. The first thing that I wanted to say was the team are phenomenal, and they're so passionate about what they do, and I've noted they're all anglers. Is that something that's that's sort of intentional for you when you're bringing people on, because you've got a good strong team here and they really know their stuff?
Most people get into this business, if I can call it that, because they're anglers, and so it's just a natural progression. And to be paid to play with fish, there's nothing better, you know. And these lads all love what they do. I don't have to motivate them, you know. They're professional, and they're just a fantastic team. It's a real pleasure to work with them.
What is it that sets Calverton apart? Because I just don't think most general anglers know the amount of expertise and actually the specifics of this site, because I've been blown away by all of the inside areas and then coming outside. I mean, it's unique, isn't it?
I think it's because the way we do things. The species that we do, for instance, the 9 species is unique, certainly the UK, and it's probably unique throughout Europe. We're growing fish in as natural conditions as we can. We're growing them in flowing water, we're growing them with lots of natural food, we're growing them in an environment where there's weed and where there's gravel. All of that is key, because it's about fitness for purpose. Every fish that leaves this place, when we stock them into the wild, they need to be fit for purpose. We could grow them faster, but they wouldn't be fit for purpose. They'd be like Frankenstein fish. That is key to the success of Calverton. When we first started, I knew nothing, but I knew that nobody else knew anything either. So having been here right from the start, and then to see things develop and try new ideas, that's been a real blessing for me, and really enjoyed my time here so far.
I want to say thank you, because as a lifelong angler, seeing those amazing fish in there, it's a brilliant indication of where our licence fee goes, and thank you so much for showing me.
It's been an absolute pleasure.